In internal combustion, closed-loop fuel control revolves around a single specific mathematical target, the stoichiometric balance. For standard unleaded gasoline, this is exactly 14.7 parts air to 1 part fuel by mass, represented by a lambda value of exactly 1.0. This exact ratio is mandatory because of the downstream three-way catalytic converter. The catalyst can only scrub nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and unburned hydrocarbons simultaneously when the exhaust chemistry is perfectly balanced. To maintain this delicate balance, the engine control module relies on the exhaust gas oxygen sensor. Positioned directly in the exhaust stream, it acts as the chemical nose of the engine, constantly measuring the concentration of unburned oxygen leaving the combustion chamber. If this real-time oxygen measurement is inaccurate, the computer loses its feedback loop. The entire emissions management and drivability control strategy of a modern engine collapses without it. The traditional narrow-band sensor relies on a solid-state component called a Nernst cell. Its core is a ceramic zirconium dioxide thimble. At room temperature, it's an electrical insulator, but when heated above 300 degrees Celsius, the ceramic's crystal lattice becomes permeable to oxygen ions. The inner chamber of this thimble holds ambient reference air with a steady oxygen concentration around 21. When the exhaust is lean, meaning high oxygen, it drops to 0.1 volts. The transition point between these states crosses the axis at exactly 0.45 volts, representing perfect stoichiometry. Because of this nearly vertical transition, the narrowband sensor cannot measure the exact degree of a rich or lean deviation. It functions exclusively as a binary switch, indicating either rich or lean, with no measurable gradients in between. This hardware limitation means the engine computer can never achieve true steady-state combustion. Instead, it is forced to continuously guess, overcorrect, and reverse fuel delivery based solely on this binary switching. As the mixture swings lean, the voltage drops, prompting the computer to add fuel. As it swings rich, the voltage spikes, prompting a fuel cut. This low-frequency oscillation averages out to a 14.7 to 1 ratio over time. To diagnose these systems, we look at where these sensors are physically installed. In multi-bank engines, Bank 1 is the cylinder bank containing cylinder number 1 in the firing order. Sensor 1 refers to the upstream sensor, while sensor 2 is downstream. Sensor 1 is positioned before the catalytic converter, directly exposed to raw exhaust gases. It is the primary input for closed-loop fuel control. Sensor 2 sits after the catalytic converter, and its sole purpose is to monitor the oxygen storage capacity of the catalyst itself. A properly functioning catalytic converter consumes excess oxygen to oxidize waste gases. Therefore, a healthy downstream sensor 2 will output a relatively flat, slow-moving voltage line, typically stable between 0.6 and 0.7 volts under a steady cruise. Understanding this spatial layout and the baseline dithering behavior is a strict prerequisite for exhaust diagnostics. You have to know how a traditional system oscillates before you can troubleshoot modern fuel systems that do not oscillate at all. Binary dithering is acceptable for a steady idle or light cruise, but under heavy, rapidly changing engine loads, turbocharger boost, and stringent ultra-low emission standards, a system constantly overcorrecting itself is too slow and imprecise. This chart compares a choppy, narrow-band trace on the left against a smooth, precise, wide-band sensor trace on the right under identical changing engine loads. Also known as air-fuel ratio or UEGO sensors, widebands measure exact air-fuel ratios across a massive spectrum, ranging from a rich 10 to 1 all the way out to pure atmospheric air. To achieve this accuracy, engineers discarded the traditional ceramic thimble design. Modern wideband sensors are built using a microscopic, flat, planar ceramic architecture. This physical change dictates how engine modules calculate fuel trims. They no longer rely on oscillating voltage. The transition to steady-state current measurement requires technicians to completely rethink how they read live data. Inside that planar ceramic, the wideband sensor uses a dual-cell architecture. It retains a classic Nernst sensing cell, but pairs it with an electrochemical oxygen pumping cell. These two cells are separated by a microscopic physical cavity known as the diffusion gap. The Nernst cell no longer monitors the raw exhaust stream directly. Instead, it measures the oxygen concentration isolated inside this diffusion gap. The wideband controller's only objective is to maintain the chemistry inside that specific gap at perfect stoichiometry, which equates to a nursed cell voltage of exactly 450 millivolts. When the engine runs lean, excess oxygen enters the diffusion gap, driving the nursed voltage below 450 millivolts. The computer reacts by sending a positive electrical current through the pumping cell. This current physically migrates oxygen ions out of the gap and back into the exhaust stream until the 450 millivolt balance is restored. When the engine runs rich, unburned fuel enters the gap, driving the nursed voltage too high. The controller immediately reverses the polarity. It drives a negative pumping current to pull oxygen ions from the exhaust stream directly into the gap, oxidizing the excess fuel to restabilize the voltage. The exact air-fuel ratio is no longer derived from a raw voltage reading. It is calculated entirely from the magnitude and direction of this pumping current. Wideband sensors natively measure this pumping current, denoted as IP, in milliamps. Looking at this data scale under the industry standard Bosch logic, 0 milliamps perfectly represents stoichiometry. A negative current flow indicates a rich state, and a positive current flow indicates a lean state. But this creates a data display problem on many scan tools. Because early OBD2 regulations required scanners to display oxygen sensor data strictly as a voltage, manufacturers mathematically translated this bidirectional current into simulated voltage values. Toyota systems are notorious for this. The computer outputs an artificial baseline of 3.3 volts to represent stoichiometry. As the mixture goes lean, the simulated voltage goes up. As it goes rich, it drops. This frequently confuses technicians who are still looking for the 0.45 volt baseline of a traditional sensor. Blindly trusting a scan tool's unit of measurement without knowing if the manufacturer is feeding you raw milliamps or a simulated voltage PID will inevitably lead to a misdiagnosis. These advanced pumping cells are completely blind at ambient temperatures. To achieve cold start emissions compliance, they rely on robust internal electrical heaters to rapidly reach their 600-degree Fahrenheit operating threshold. Look at this oscilloscope trace. The engine computer carefully manages thermal expansion by pulse width modulating the ground circuit. It heats the ceramic gradually. If the heater ran at full power immediately upon startup, liquid exhaust condensation hitting the hot ceramic would cause catastrophic thermal shock, instantly cracking the sensor. When a P0135 heater code sets, the primary hardware test is straightforward. Unplug the sensor and measure the resistance across the two same-colored heater wires. A healthy element typically measures between 5 and 20 ohms. Before analyzing complex fuel trim anomalies, you must verify this heater circuit. A wideband sensor physically cannot pump current if it is cold. When tackling drivability diagnostics, remember the golden rule of exhaust sensing. The sensor exclusively measures unburned oxygen. It cannot measure unburned fuel. Consider an ignition misfire. A spark plug fails to fire and the exhaust valve opens, dumping uncombusted fuel and oxygen directly into the exhaust manifold. As that dense wave of intact oxygen washes over the sensor element, it accurately reports a severe lean condition, despite the manifold being soaked in raw fuel. Looking at this scan tool data, we see the false lean paradox in action. The engine computer trusts the oxygen reading and immediately drives the short-term fuel trims dangerously rich, desperately trying to add fuel to a cylinder that is already misfiring. An upstream exhaust leak produces the exact same data signature. High-velocity exhaust pulses create a Venturi effect, sucking ambient outside air into the pipe and artificially flooding the sensor with oxygen. Do not shoot the reporter. Replacing an oxygen sensor for a lean code without first verifying ignition health and physical exhaust integrity is the most common and costly mistake made in the diagnostic bay. To separate a chemically poisoned or lazy sensor from a mechanical engine fault, you must take control of the combustion chemistry and artificially force a change in the air-fuel ratio. The definitive method is the propane enrichment test. By safely feeding unlit propane directly into the air intake of a running engine, you artificially flood the system with fuel. This shows the required response from a healthy narrowband sensor. When propane reaches the exhaust, voltage must snap instantly to a flat line above 800 millivolts. On a wideband sensor, that same rich condition manifests as a sharp negative spike in pumping current. The true test of sensor health happens when you remove the fuel source. The moment the propane is shut off, the signal must plummet back below 175 millivolts in under 100 milliseconds. If the drop is sluggish, the sensor is fouled. By mastering the solid-state physics of these sensors and verifying them with forced response testing, a technician definitively proves hardware health. It eliminates the guesswork and stops the parts cannon approach to diagnostics entirely.